Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to try something a little different, a thought experiment that really flips the script on what we think we know about global environmental standards.
So, to get started, let's get a different perspective. And I mean literally. We're not going to start with a policy paper, but from way up high, about 30,000 feet above the continent.
Okay, so let's start with a little thought experiment. I want you to imagine you're on a plane. It's a beautiful, clear day, and you're flying from, say, Zurich to Hamburg, right over the industrial heart of Europe. You've got the window seat, of course. So what are you seeing down there? It's probably not what you'd call pristine nature, right? You're seeing this incredible patchwork of human activity, highways like veins connecting towns and cities, huge industrial parks, and just endless fields. It's a landscape that has been totally shaped and managed by us.
And that simple view from an airplane window, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where did all the native forests go? In this continent that's been so developed for so long, what's actually left of the original, untouched environment? And believe me, that question is going to set the stage for everything we're talking about today.
Okay, so let's take that bird's eye view and bring it right down to earth into the middle of the global conversation about environmental policy. You know the one. It's a conversation that often paints a very specific picture. Europe as the good guy, the environmental hero, and Brazil? Well, Brazil as the villain.
I mean, for years, the story we've been told here in Europe is all about criticizing Brazil, right? The narrative is always about unchecked deforestation, reckless destruction of the Amazon, and just plain irresponsible agriculture. That's the common perception anyway.
So, that brings us to the core question, our big thought experiment for today. If European environmental standards are so high, and Brazil's are supposedly so, well, lax, then it should be a piece of cake for Europe to adopt Brazil's laws, shouldn't it? I mean, what would actually happen if we did that? If we just flipped the whole script?
All right, let's do it. Let's move past perception and get into the reality. We're going to look at the actual laws on the books. We'll put the regulations side by side and see how they really stack up.
And boom. Right away, you see this massive difference. In the EU, when it comes to arable land, there is a 0% compulsory requirement to set land aside for nature. Now look at Brazil. Every single farmer is legally required to keep anywhere from 20 to a whopping 80% of their property as a legal reserve of native forest. They can't farm it, they can't develop it, it just has to stay wild. The difference is just incredible.
Okay, let's zoom out from the individual farm to the whole country. Get this, 66%, 2/3 of Brazil's entire land area is covered in forest. And what's even crazier is that 92% of that is native forest. Just let that sink in for a second.
Now let's compare that to the European Union. Sure, about 35% of the EU is forested, which sounds pretty good, but the amount of that which is actual native forest? It's less than 1%, not even 1 full percent. The difference is just staggering.
And it doesn't stop with just setting aside land, not by a long shot. Brazilian law is incredibly detailed. For example, you can't farm within 50 meters of any river. Those are protected riparian forests. There are also these vast wet zones where no production is allowed at all. And how do they enforce all this? With heavy-duty satellite surveillance and, you guessed it, really steep fines if you don't comply. The takeaway here is so clear. The popular idea of Brazil having lax laws just doesn't hold up to reality.
And here's the really incredible part. Brazil managed to do all this while its agriculture sector was absolutely booming. Over the last 40 years, the land they used for farming grew by about 91%. But their crop yield, how much they got from that land, shot up by almost 500%. That's all down to tech and just getting way more efficient.
Okay, so let's take this one step further. What would happen if we actually tried to apply these Brazilian rules in Europe? What would the real-world consequences be for European farmers?
And we don't even have to guess how people would react, do we? Remember those huge farmer protests back in 2023? They brought tractors into the cities, blocked highways. Some people were describing it as civil war-like conditions. And the crazy part is, they were protesting rules that were so much less strict than what's just standard practice in Brazil.
So, what was all that about? What were they protesting? Well, sure, some of it was about subsidies and prices, but a huge part of it was a major pushback against new nature conservation measures. And here's the kicker. The source material we're looking at calls these measures ridiculously low. They were way less strict than what Brazilian farmers have to deal with every single day. So if European farmers protested those rules, Can you even imagine the explosion if they were suddenly faced with Brazil's much, much tougher standards?
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds compelling, but what about the fires? We've all seen the headlines, the devastating pictures of the Amazon burning. We absolutely have to talk about the elephant in the room, those massive forest fires in Brazil.
And look, it's a totally valid point. It's the key counter-argument to everything we've just discussed. Those images are powerful, they're disturbing, and they're real. But when you dig into the actual data, a much more nuanced story starts to emerge.
Well, the satellite data is pretty undeniable. Almost all of these fires, we're talking up to 95%, they aren't natural wildfires. They're started by people, and they start on private land. But here's the statistic that changes everything. This comes from Brazil's own long-term environmental registry, and it's really the key to understanding the whole problem. The data shows that a tiny fraction, fewer than 5% of all farmers, are the ones responsible for the illegal deforestation. So this isn't a problem with the entire agricultural industry, it's a problem with a criminal minority. And let's be real, that's a massive challenge. You're trying to police these huge, remote areas where illegal land grabbing is, frankly, really hard to stop.
So after all this, what's the big takeaway? What's the point of this whole thought experiment? Well, it's not just about pointing fingers or saying one side is good and the other is bad. It's really about seeing if there's a totally new path forward.
Instead of just criticizing, the source we're looking at suggests there is a massive opportunity here. What if European agriculture actually learned from the sustainable practices of their Brazilian colleagues? What if they restructured to focus on premium, truly sustainable products? They could even invest in new opportunities, maybe even in Brazil itself. This could be a whole new kind of green revolution, one that's driven by technology and real collaboration, not just by ideology.
The bottom line is this. Millions of Brazilian farmers are not only surviving, but thriving under some of the toughest environmental laws you'll find anywhere in the world. They're doing so much more for conservation than the common narrative gives them credit for. It completely challenges that simple black and white story of Brazil being the environmental bad guy. Really, what this all comes down to is moving past the simple black and white stories we're often told. The real world is way more complex and frankly way more interesting. The path forward means embracing that new reality. And that leaves us with one last big idea to chew on. What if we shifted from a dynamic of criticism to one of genuine collaboration? Imagine a new kind of green revolution, one that's built not on finger pointing, but on partnership, shared tech, and learning from each other. What could that future possibly unlock?